thank you for joining us at Senior Answers podcast. My name is Maria Madrid, and today we have Pat Cook. Both of us work at the Colorado Gerontological Society, and today having Pat Cook is part of a 3-part series to specifically talk about elder abuse and different topics. So today we will focus on elder exploitation, and we'll have future topics on part 2 and part 3. So Pat, thank you so much for being with us today. This is a topic that is very needed in our community. So please lead us on.
Thanks for coordinating this and getting us started. So we're going to present today on elder abuse part 1, and we're going to concentrate on the area that generally is more impactful across our whole state, which is financial exploitation. And so I will continue forward. So let's start by reviewing what the definitions of elder abuse is. So elder abuse, it causes harm. And generally in our statutes, in our state, we started out as elder abuse was anybody that was at risk that was 70 and older. Over a couple of years of working in a major team of people across the state, it became clear to us that we also had to address younger people that had disabilities and intellectual disabilities. So the statute was changed to be at-risk adults, anybody 18 and over. And so that is where we are today. And so back to what is elder abuse is that it causes harm. Generally, harm can be physical or sexual, or takes money or assets from an older adult. This could be property, belongings, anything that has monetary value. We've had collections, for instance, that were pretty valuable, taken by family members and sold, and the elder was not part of that decision tree. That's an example of monetary value. And then the third part is neglect. And this is where the basic needs of an elder that you are taking responsibility to help is ignored or put at risk. And this one, the neglect one, is a continuing evolving conversation, and we're doing more and more work on it as we go, trying to define what is a neglect and what's the difference between that and making poor decisions. We'll be talking more about that on the third taping. So at the federal level, financial exploitation means that a person with a disability or an elder that is in a position of trust with somebody, it could be a family member, it can be a community member, it can be a business, it can be a government employee, knowingly and by deception or intimidation gains control over the property of an elderly person. This comes from the justice.gov, who is a major organization and has a lot of feedback into all the states, helping all the states become successful in dealing with this from a federal level. So Colorado took forever to get going, and we were the 48th state in the union to actually adopt legislation. That was about 7 years ago. I've been very lucky to be a part of this from day one. And Jefferson County actually led the charge to get the statute in place. And then Jefferson, Larimer, Denver, Pueblo, Weld, Durango area down there have been pretty consistent and steady state in this. Just recently, we are joining other states to get best practices and develop national protocols that is going to really help do a better job in all sectors of government that are interfaced in this conversation. So you need a policy, and if you're in assisted living or you're running any business, that you actually are what we consider somebody of trust. And here is your explanation so that you can use this policy to build your policy from Chapter 33 from the state. Okay. So in Colorado, these are the parts of the statute. So, and the language is how it was drafted. We will be redrafting some language either this year or next year but at the moment, this is where we sit. So it could be that you're stealing money or possessions, selling possessions without permission, selling property or possessions. For example, the older adult has dementia and you are trying to make them Medicaid eligible. So you sell their possessions in their home without their input and they're not able to make that decision. That is considered financial, exploitation. You might forge the signature to sell. We've seen a lot of that happen. And so people forge a signature or have somebody sign something when they don't know what they're selling or signing, I'm sorry. Stealing the identity. That has become more prevalent in the last 5 years, especially because there is so much identity theft through the internet. Controlling people's funds without permission. In other words, you didn't go to court and get that authority. So you use the funds for your own personal gain. We've had a lot of that going on. And then take advantage of a financial power of attorney. A financial power of attorney is quite limited. People think it's a free rein. Maria teaches a great class on financial power of attorney, so I would recommend that you take that. And so that you understand the limitations and what the authority is. And then you might force an adult to sign legal documents. This comes in estate documents, bank documents, and wills. One of the things that happened, this started about 6 years ago, is the banks decided that they were tired of being blamed for everything. And so they got their own processes and they got their own legislation to protect them, both on the federal and state level. So when you have a power of attorney, most banks do not honor that. I would say 99% of them don't honor it. You have to actually do that on their premise and use their forms. And they have turned in a lot of people for financial exploitation. Another place that you would see where a power of attorney would not work is at Social Security's office, where you want to be the rep payee to help manage Social Security benefits. And you literally have to take the person with you, even if they're severely demented. We've done this many, many times so that they can see for their own with their own eyes that this dementia is real. They do not take a doctor's statement on that dementia. So that has been very challenging. On state benefits, power of attorneys have worked fine. And then we have a representative designation on all state applications where the person can designate whoever they want to be a voice. And then the state has been willing to accept that. That may change in the future. So here are some of the things that we have seen in fraud. And again, this has really evolved heavily in the last 3 to 4 years, even more than it was before. So back when I first got involved in this group, we were having major issues with roofs because we had had a lot of weather damage and we had false companies coming in and getting people to pay up front. And then never doing the roof. We had the same thing with laying cement for driveways. So that was some of my early memories. Since then, it's even grown, and I can't tell you how many fraudulent situations occur on a daily basis. Being that I'm older myself now, I get them on my emails, and I just forward them over to the district attorney's office. And they have a whole team of people that are chasing these folks down on the internet. So there's been a lot of investment scams. There's a new one that's not on this list, and it's now called the vaccine scam. So that seniors are getting emails from the similar scammers that have been doing other scamming, saying that they can get them a vaccine if they get them a gift card from Walmart. Recently, Walmart lost a lawsuit, and they now have to ask a senior coming in for gift cards over $50 if somebody is pressuring them to buy a gift card. Same thing's happening at King Supers and Target and other places. So again, we're trying to get community engagement on this. So Medicare scams are frequent. Some good things that are coming out of telehealth and some of the other opportunities for Medicare beneficiaries is also we have to teach all the beneficiaries to be careful not to get scammed in that. Every year we go through IRS scams where the seniors or older adults will get an email or a text messaging saying that we can get your refund money for you, and has nothing to do with IRS, but IRS sends out PSAs about that. We've had some seasons of selling your property. We'll come in and we'll give you cash for your property. You have to move out in 48 hours. And so we had to get additional legislation on that. We had the lottery scams constantly. Then we go through seasons where things like a senior will get a phone call, your grandson's in jail, he needs bail money, go get a gift card or go get a Visa card and get it to us within 24 hours and we'll release him from jail. And one senior that I worked with on this didn't even have a grandson and fell into it. Yesterday, I had this one. We're coming to shut your electricity off, and you need to have $450 when we get to the door. So that just happened yesterday with a senior. Luckily, he called me, and we were able to deal with the situation. So some hints to understand abuse is people will try to get cash or credit card numbers from folks. Cash cards, they want your social security number. The newer one is please give me your new Medicare number. We had some doctors across the country billing Medicare for dead people. We had doctors and groups, especially Oxygen and DME, billing people that never had the product. So it's called clawback. And so Medicare itself has a major program in fraud. And they do territories, and they go after very diligently, and they're very successful. Some other ones that we have seen is my son made me sign my house over. And again, the son was trying to get that person eligible for Medicaid, not knowing that that was giving the assets away. And therefore, the Medicaid application was null and void. I had one of these where the son was charging his mother for mileage and time for every little thing he did for her. And he tried to do 3 to 4 things a day. Then he would charge her for food, even though he was eating at her assisted living, and other things, and taking money out of her account. And so that turned into a financial exploitation. And then also he lost his ability to see his mother anymore. The court took all of his ability to be engaged with her for neglect, for financial exploitation, and elder abuse. We've had cases about service companies come out and they tell the senior that they need to do all this work. They want to be paid in cash, and then they never come back and do the work. The senior has no idea who they are, or it was false representation. So some more experiences that we've had in our group is we've had rural property taken from older adult farmers or ranchmen. And this one man that did it then promised them they would have a place to live for life. He abandoned this whole group of gentlemen, and there was no food in the house, no protective oversight. There was nobody there, and he was never found, as far as I know. And so the state had to go in and rescue these guys, and they were literally impoverished. We had another situation where in a rural area where a company told the caregiver to ask the guy for cash every day and bring it to the office, and then charged Medicare and Medicaid for his services. We had a case where we've had several of these where family members break in the house, take assets, take cash. And this one particular case, the guy took his mom's purse and his ID and her checkbook, went to the bank to try to write a big check and to cash it, saying his mother needed to get cash because she was at the hospital and had to pay a hospital bill. And the teller, who was very good, figured out the story was false and actually was able to call in the police. And that gentleman was arrested at the bank and got a nice long prison sentence. We've had, unfortunately, grandparents are a little bit too good for their grandchildren. And so we've had more than one case, but this particular one, the grandson assaulted his grandmother. She had a major black eye. He took all her money, was supposed to pay her bills, and then was doing drug deals. And that went on several months. And how we got involved is because all of her utilities was being shut off, among other things. And that's how it came to light about this grandson. We had a case where the senior was locked in a room, and the lock was reversed so that she couldn't get out. And the son wiped her out, and she had no food, utilities. Neighbors couldn't get in, she couldn't get out. And the son came once a week to pick up the mail. So it was another one that the gentleman got a fairly lengthy sentence. One of our newer issues that we've been dealing with as a group for quite some time is the multiple 911 calls a day. And so our team, that's made up of many professionals in different agencies, try to deal with these folks that call 911 frequently. And when we was working on this one particular case, it came to light finally that the nephew was coming and demanding money and taking her items and was pawning them. And so we was able to stage a situation and plant some people in and catch them in the act. So these are true experiences over the last few years that have happened here in the metro area. This particular case caused me a major amount of heartburn. So we had a lady in her 90s that actually worked until she was 90. She was a vice president of a company. She had a car accident and had a head injury, and then the dementia set in quite rapidly. And so the family tried to take care of her and couldn't. And then the daughter decided that she needed an assisted living, and she moved into the assisted living. So again, the daughter had power of attorney. She was supposed to be paying her bills. The lady had plenty of income to pay the assisted living and still have money left over every month. But all of a sudden, the daughter wasn't paying the bills. She wouldn't have hygiene items. The daughter took her coat. Jewelry disappeared. So we had, all this stuff going on over there. And then the bank statement came. And so it was intercepted by the owner. She did not open it, but she called the police, and they got court order to open it and found out that all of her money was totally gone. And what came out of that was the same daughter had taken all her money and assets and opened a marijuana shop. Again, extremely challenging case. That one actually got bumped up to the federal level because it was such a huge amount of money. Another case we had this year in 2021 is that we had a senior paying rent for the last 2 years. And the guy would come to the apartment and get it every month, but she never got any paperwork. So back, I think it's 2 years ago now, you have to give a receipt for cash. You have to have a lease, even if it's month to month. And so none of that was going on. And then one day she got a 3-day quit notice on her door, and she knew about us and called. And so luckily we was able to get help from an attorney that works in this area. And so she went with our lady to court, and the man that showed up was not the man she'd been paying. Apparently it was a former employee. So the court dismissed the case. The owner got major issues, had quite a few charges put against him. And we got about 90 days before we got her moved rent-free while we worked on all the issues of finding housing in Denver. So insurance fraud and scams, they're continuing to grow. And so, like I said, we have new Medicare cards. The reason that we got new Medicare numbers and they're computer-generated numbers is because of fraud. And so it's harder to actually do these fraud accounts because they have a triple data entry into the federal billing system. And so that has cut down some, but not all. I just recently saw we're going to get new Medicare cards that are embedded. They're going to look a lot like our Colorado driver's license. And so they won't be able to be easily replicated. And they will actually have some sort of barcode embedded for scanning for the people that need to get that information for billing. As I said before, the scams that come out of this, frequently our services aren't rendered. people that have been billed that are no longer with us, people that were billed for services but actually weren't seen because transportation was 15 minutes late. And the front desk people say, "You're late, we can't see you," but they went ahead and billed. And then mail order medications. So we've had some challenges where people want to get their medications from an unauthorized Medicare biller, and then the medications neither came or the company charged for them, and they were stolen off the front porch. And so this is going to be a future issue because more and more medications are going to be on 90-day cycles. One of the fixes on that I was very happy, and we didn't even ask for it, our group didn't anyway, is that the pharmacies, all the major pharmacies in Colorado now can actually do a 90-day script out of their pharmacy, and people can actually pick it up and go home, or it can be delivered by one of their staff. So we're not hearing about that as much as we were 3 years ago. All right. So you say, well, what is my obligation? Well, hopefully, if you're on this call, either whether or not you're a professional or a community person or a family member, realize that you are a mandatory reporter. Okay. And so the law is broad enough that all professionals pretty much are mandatory reporters. And anybody who works for an agency or any service that takes care of older adults or at-risk adults, it would be a mandatory reporter if there is something going wrong. So the policy, I was thinking about how you could draft it, and I kind of kept it simple, is that we need to teach all of our staff and all the people that interface with us to take it seriously, fill out an incident report first. It's a good place to get all of the details put together and collect a statement. And then one person in your company is the one that actually calls the police, because that's where it normally starts. And then the police do an investigation while you're doing an investigation. If you happen to be part of our assisted living administrative circle, you are obligated to go on the portal and file an occurrence and follow the occurrence manual for that. And then when you're done with your investigation, you go back and complete the investigation. What a lot of, again, in the assisted living world that we see is people forget to go fill in the second part and complete the investigation, and then the state's at their front door. So generally, if it all makes sense, the investigation makes sense, and the interactive steps that you put in place make sense, the state just says, thank you for the information. It's when there's gaps. So the questions that a good incident report has is who, where, what, how, when, and why. Old thinking. We've been doing it for umpteen million years, and we will continue to use these statements. So the most common incident reports that are formal and tried and vetted will address these areas. So you have an obligation, and if you want to know if you're part of the professional obligation, you can go to this website and the state statute and look to see if you're on the list. And like I said, it's been expanded 3 times. Pretty much everybody that deals with older adults is on the list. So I want to come back around the root cause. Why do we have financial exploitation? Why do people feel that it's their right or they have that privilege to hurt an older adult and compromise them? Why do we as society tolerate it? Why do we as a city tolerate it? And why do we not have more of this information and work being done and make it more citywide? So the cool thing is that we're actually answering these whys. We're doing more. And we have we're going to have dedicated teams. So you're aware of that police departments are now sending out mental health for a lot of the calls instead of policemen. Mental health folks are very well trained in detecting financial exploitation and being able to report it. So, a lot of the work that Denver is doing in the Denver Police Department, Aurora, Arapahoe Sheriff's Department, Jefferson County, is that these workers with this increased training are able to sort out and identify potential financial exploitation so that we are going to be able to do more of this work faster. The courts have been At first, the courts weren't really processing and they weren't prosecuting people. That has changed in the last 18 months. And so we are actually getting sentences, and fairly good lengthy sentences and long probations. So your intervention is, what can you verify? Can you identify the issue and what's been done about it already, and where is it in the continuum? So the hotline for Denver is on this slide. And if you're in a small community, in a small town, you might want to start with your sheriff office first. This is not a 911 call unless the senior is hurt or needs to be immediately moved to a safer setting. And if that's true, then 911 is the appropriate. You want to use the non-emergency line. The operators for these numbers have also gone through significant training in the last 2 years, and they are able to ask those pertinent questions, those why questions, and the what questions, and what has been done about it, and what did you observe, and what do you have proof of. Their training has evolved. 911 operators are moving those cases over to these operators, and then the community teams are more readily able to identify issues. And then, like I said, then referrals come into groups like Denver has and other county and municipalities have, so that it can be talked about and then figure out if it's a community issue, if it's a legal issue, or what is other, what are we going to need to do to keep the seniors safe. So the process, to reiterate this, is please report it to law enforcement. Okay, they will collaborate with human services. Now, for many, many years, when we thought something was wrong with a senior, we always called Adult Protective Services. They will take the call, but they will tell you in their voicemail, while you're waiting to get somebody to answer the dang phone, if you think there is, this or that, please call your local law enforcement or 911. So they try to redirect it. And then they do what they call a screening. And so they screen out whether or not their agency, under the new regulations for elder abuse, needs to be engaged immediately, or are they going to be engaged at a later point. We have both. So sometimes they are right in the middle of it. And a lot of times it comes along with the senior self-neglect issues. Other times they screen it out and they refer it, and then law enforcement has to put it through their team. Denver's lucky, along with many other municipalities, where they have trained special detectives who actually are very kind, very nurturing, for the most part, that I've worked with, and they can go to that senior home and get that senior to talk to them. Because a lot of times seniors will try to protect their family members so they don't go to jail. So in the statute, if they meet the criteria, it doesn't matter what the senior wants. They don't have to sign off on it. And I just heard that myth this last week, that people aren't being prosecuted because the seniors don't want it. That is not true. The seniors don't actually have a say in that. They a lot of times will try to, again, protect their family members. But that is not the criteria for actually continuing the prosecution. In Denver, especially, the team works well together. We meet monthly, and sometimes we meet in between because we have a case that can't wait. And we put our energies together and try to figure out how to put protections around this person, get them safe in a motel or into a domestic violence program or whatever we're doing. And this is across all cultures. So one of our deficits is having the translation. We're good with common translations like Spanish and Russian. We're not good in the Asian world or in some of the other languages where the person is monolingual. That is growing. We did some work on it last year and identified companies that actually could be official translators, but by no means we've got that problem solved. And then, like I said, the detective will interview and work on the case. And sometimes they bring them to the group. Sometimes they're solved and we never hear about them. And then sometimes if the money is significant, it could go from city court to district court to state to federal. And it all depends on a whole lot of different rules. And I just let those professionals figure out where it's going to be prosecuted at. The bank issues, again, they are separate, though they fit under the elder abuse. They're most frequently done because all banks usually have FDIC contracts, and most of that work ends up going to the FBI or CBI, and they deal with, especially when it's major situations, such as the family that took all my 90-year-old's money and for a marijuana shop. For utilities, so the water departments, Excel, phone companies, Xfinity, CenturyLink, they have all been revising their customer service, and they have a team of people that also work on trying to work through these fraudulent situations about utilities. And so one of the things that I try when I talk to a senior is see if they can capture the caller ID number. We had a strange one coming right into our office out of Minnesota for about a month, and we had them call 3 of our lines at once and with the same number. And so I turned that in for exploitation. They were trying to get us to send them cash for a utility bill, and they didn't realize they had a nonprofit agency. So scams come and go, and just realize and be very aware that when people are acting different or they're telling you a story, not to blow that off. So this is our conclusion for today of our 3-part series, working on financial exploitations. You are welcome to email us on our website. It's info@senioranswers.org. You can call me. You can call our office. If you have a case and you need to discuss it or you need to think it out, I'm more than glad to do that. And we can get you started on the right pathway to be a conduit and be a partner to the senior that you are assisting. Don't be afraid. Your information is kept confidential. It's never shared. And even if you are if you testify in court, it's done under confidentiality, and your faces or contact information is never brought into court, so that you're well protected. That was another one of those revisions. So thanks again for coming today. We appreciate it. And I'm going to turn this back over to Maria.
Thank you, Pat, for providing us such important information on elder abuse. Please remember that this is a 3-part series. We will make the slides presented here today available in the video description. So make sure you look at the video description to access that information. And in the video description, I will include all of the information on how to get a hold of us here at the Society. So you're able to contact us, and if you need to talk through anything, we're here for you. Some of these concepts and information given, especially if it's our first time going through it, could be quite challenging. And we're very fortunate to have experts like Pat that are able to walk you through the process, whether you're an older adult yourself, whether you're a caregiver, or you're a professional in the field of aging and you are providing services to the aging population. So once again, Pat, thank you. We look forward to the next 2 episodes and the information that you will provide us there. Once again, look at the video description to access any of the information provided today, the slide, and contact